Good morning, hello, and welcome to Revenue Growth Live. Daryl Amy here, growth architect, helping great companies and organizations grow revenue. I'm really excited about our conversation today. Thank you to everybody who's joining us. Our goal here at Revenue Growth Live is to provide ideas, strategy, inspiration, all aimed at helping you grow your business so that you can give back to your community and create amazing jobs. And I just want to give a shout out to everybody in the Revenue Growth Live community and audience, the Revenue Growth podcast, all of you who've read Revenue Growth Engine. I just want to say a huge thank you. And in fact, more than a thank you, I want to encourage you, because what I'm seeing right now is I'm seeing a group of business professionals, business owners, marketing professionals, sales leaders. And what you're doing right now is you are working hard, you're driving, you're thriving, you're being creative, you're doing the things that it takes to make sure that you and your organizations are going to be successful in the months and years to come. And in this time of relative, shall we say, uncertainty, as we're kind of ending this, very unpredictable and unplanned for year and moving into another year, it's really important that we have a good strategy to plan going forward. And that's exactly what I want to talk about in the time that we have today. I want to talk about how do you set goals into 2021? And this is going to be applicable to you if you're a business owner, if you're a marketing professional, if you lead a sales team, or if you're a sales professional. All of us need to be thinking about how are we going to set our goals as we move into 2021? And today, during Revenue Growth Live, I want to share some of the concepts I call exponential revenue growth. And we've got a lot of ideas to share over the coming weeks in terms of strategies to help you grow your business and to help you develop and grow your revenue. So thank you to everybody that's joining us live. And thank you to the many of you who are going to be watching later. I'd love for you to just give a shout out in the comments, and I'd love to know. I'd love for all of this to be interactive. If you have comments, questions as we go through. But as we're getting started today, I just gave a public shout out on LinkedIn to Craig LeMasters. I got to talk with Craig on the Revenue Growth podcast 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Craig is fantastic. He has taken several Fortune 500 companies, helped grow them. He now works with organizations and he helps them get unstuck. And he actually put all of it in this book, Unstuck. Check this out: how to unlock and activate the wisdom of others. Just brilliant. When I got to talk with Craig on the Revenue Growth podcast, I got excited about his philosophy of saying, hey, how can we unlock the wisdom of other people inside our organizations so that we can grow? And I know, as if I just got this book yesterday, I've started looking through it. And I know the ideas in this book are powerful and they're going to be helpful to a lot of people. So I'm really looking forward to digging into this and maybe talking with Craig further, because I think he is absolutely fantastic. So a huge shout out to Craig and a huge shout out to everybody who is out there right now driving and thriving. But the real question that I want to bring to us this morning is, how do you plan for goals going into the new year? How do you set goals? I mean, this is a really, really tough challenge, because when I look at most organizations and the way they set goals, some of them use the spaghetti on the wall method, right? They throw a number out there. They don't look at it all year. But what a lot of organizations use is actually use the ruler method. And, they'll go, okay, this is what we did, in 2019, 18, 17, 16. I guess we better put 2020. Well, let's stick with this for a minute, right? And normally they go, okay, here's our new goal, right? And the ruler method is great. It's conservative. It works. But there's a big problem for a lot of organizations, right? One of the biggest problems for organizations right now is this is 2020. It's been a brutally tough year, right? So How are you going to put the ruler on this? For many companies right now, the ruler's pointed in the wrong direction. Other companies, there are some companies right now that just had a banner year. Maybe you've been sitting in the face mask business for decades, trudging along, and all of a sudden you're crazy. Same thing. I mean, this number is not useful either, this trajectory. So how do you set a reasonable growth trajectory going forward? How do you set goals for revenue? And this is a big problem. And I know many companies are dealing with this as we move into the end of the year. So let me share some ideas. And really what this comes down to is the core philosophy behind Revenue Growth Engine. What I want to share with you today is actually what started the whole Revenue Growth Engine idea. And that was simply this. It was a fundamental question of, where does revenue come from? Where does revenue come from? And I believe if you boil it down to its most basic level, if you take all of it and you boil it down to, there's really only two ways to grow revenue. There's only two ways. And it's actually quite simple if you think about it. Let's look at this. How do you grow revenue, right? Get my whiteboard to cooperate. Grow revenue. Only two ways, and two ways only, to grow revenue. One, this one is going to seem really simple. Net new. We get new clients, new logos. We bring new people on board. Number two, we sell more to our current clients. We cross-sell. Now, why is this important? This is important for a number of reasons. First of all, what I found is most companies are usually good at one or the other. They go, yep, Daryl, we've got a killer sales team. They're really consistent at going out and landing new deals. And I say thumbs up. Good for you. That's great. Other companies are really good at saying, you know what, we're not maybe so great at going out and landing new deals, but we're good at cross-selling more to our current clients. We're really good at going out and building those relationships and going wide and going deeper into these current accounts and developing the business. Well, here's the deal. If we can get both of these running at the same time, we really can see some growth. You see, if you're only doing one at a time, let's say you're driving 10% historically, let's leave 2020 out of it. You're driving 10% year over year growth in net new business. I learned something years ago when I did a brief stint. I thought I might want to get into the investment world. And in the investment world, they have a rule of 72. How many people have heard the rule of 72? Basically, what the rule of 72 says is, if you want to know how long it's going to take you to double your money, take the number of 72 and divide it by the growth rate. So in this case, 72 divided by 10%, I can tell you mathematically it's going to take you 7.2 years to double your revenue, right? And you can actually do this. It's really cool. You Google rule of 72. It works in the investment world. It also works when it comes to growing your business. Now, that's a long time to double revenue. But what I've learned is, if you can show growth in both simultaneously, if I can show growth in net new, reasonable growth in net new, reasonable growth in cross-selling, guess what? I can dramatically compress that time. I call it the theory of marginal gains, which I learned. I'll tell that story some other time about the British cycling team. Went from last place to first place using the theory of marginal gains. And what I'm saying here today for planning is, what if we could get net new and cross-selling going at the same time? What would that do in terms of setting goals? So let's just think about this now in terms of our goals. What is your goal for 2021? We're all going to have to answer this question for our businesses at some point in the next couple months, because we're in Q4, right? What's our goal for 2021? One way to do that is just to go, you know what? I'm going to guess. I'm just going to guess what our total revenue is going to be. Another way to do it is to go down one level deeper into these two drivers of net new and cross-sell. And then be able to say, okay, net new. Let's think about net new. The fundamental measurement here is how many clients do we have right now? At the end of the year, when all the dust is settled with COVID and the crisis and all of that, how many clients do we have right now? Let's say, just round numbers, we have 1,000 clients. And then the question is, okay, well, what kind of growth, if you put processes in place, good prospecting processes, good marketing processes in place, we talk about in revenue growth engine, what kind of growth could you see here? And you may say, okay, Daryl, I think we could grow that 10%. And now we'd have 1,100 clients. Great. Now, what about cross-sell? What about selling more to our current clients? What if we could get the processes and systems in place to cross-sell more effectively to our current clients? Well, the metric here is revenue per client. What's our revenue per client? You go, Daryl, I don't know what our revenue per client is. Well, it's actually really simple math. If you know the number of clients, you can take your revenue and divide it by your number of clients, and that'll tell you what your revenue per client is. So let's say your revenue per client is $1,000, and you can grow that by 10%, right? See if I can get my whiteboard to cooperate with me here. 10%. Now my revenue per client is $1,100 at the end of the year. Now, are both of these, so we have 1,100 clients at $1,100 per client. Now all we have is a very simple and doable math problem. So let me pull out my handy calculator. You guys have to see this. This is the actual calculator that I have used for the last 27 years in sales. It still works. So let's multiply that. 1,100 clients times $1,100 per client. 1,100 times 1,100 is, there we go. Let's add the numbers up. Here we go. Now I know it's 1.21 million. There you go. Let's just make that nice right there. 1.21 million. Now I've got a number. By the way, 1,000 customers at $1,000 per customer. My previous revenue was $1 million. And now you go, okay, now we've got a realistic basis for setting growth goals going forward. We've got a model here now where we can say, okay, when we're going to set our goal, let's not just throw a number out there on the, throw the spaghetti on the wall and guess. Let's go one level deeper and look at our number of clients and our revenue per client, and then set those goals. What do you think we could do in number of clients and growth? Right? What do you think we could do in revenue per client and growth? And that will leave you a realistic number. And so now these are things that you can track. And we talk about this more in depth inside Revenue Growth Engine. And we'll talk about tracking that more in some of our future Facebook Lives. But what I want to encourage you with is this. Number one, just because it feels uncertain right now, just because it feels uncertain doesn't mean you can't plan. Just because, to go back to our earlier graph here, right? Just go down. Just because 2020 either, looks like this down and, the trend is not your friend, or, continuing that trajectory if you, sold face masks or whatever is not realistic. Hey, I want to let you know that you can still plan. You can still set goals. It just means that you've got to think differently about it. And in reality, the way you set goals using net new and cross-sell, using how many clients do we have and what's our revenue per client and how can we grow those two things, that should have been how we did it all along anyways, probably, right? So what I want to encourage you to do is, if you're a company, if you own a company, lead a sales team, lead a marketing department, or you have a territory as a sales rep, I want to encourage you right now to take an inventory and go, okay, well, how many clients do we have? What's, what, as the dust is settling going into Q4, how many clients do we have? And then be able to say, okay, what's our revenue per client? And you can do that on an annual basis. You could do that on a quarterly basis. it doesn't really matter as long as you track the same thing going forward. And to my EOS friends out there, and we get to work with a lot of companies that use the traction methodology, the entrepreneur's operating system, and you're big into scorecards. And I know you all set 1, 3, and 10-year targets for revenue. Well, when you look at that 3-year target and that 1-year target, how do you set that target? Well, I would recommend you go a level deeper and you look at net new, number of customers, and cross-sell, and then you set some goals based on that. And that opens up the question, the important questions. What can we do to drive more net new business? What can we do to cross-sell more to our current clients? And so all of this is moving together to say, what are we going to do to plan to grow revenue in the new year? And I believe that number one, you can plan, you can set goals, and those goals can be realistic. When you use this model, by the way, I think what you come up with is what I call ABR goals. ABR, aggressive but realistic. Aggressive but realistic. And the reason they're aggressive is when you do net new plus cross-sell, what happens is you get an exponential effect going. The law of exponential growth is in effect. Now, are there nuances to this in different businesses? Yeah, absolutely. Different businesses have different revenue streams and different sales models. But I will say, regardless of what business you're in, we should all be looking at these two things. We should all be looking at what are we doing to get more customers? What are we doing to sell more to our current clients? And when you get those two things right, you've set yourself up for success. So, hey, I want to say a huge thank you to everybody joining in on Revenue Growth Live. This is brand new. We're in our second week. And our goal here is simply to add value and to make sure that great organizations have the tools and the strategies that they need to be able to succeed in the weeks, months, and years to come. Couple housekeeping items. I am going to be off the grid on Thursday. We're doing these every Tuesday and Thursday. The only exception is on Thursday, I'm going to be off the grid leading with a fantastic group of guys, the Man Alive Expedition, which I absolutely love, but that is out in the woods. And so I won't be able to come to you live on Thursday. However, we will be back next Tuesday to resume the cadence here of sharing ideas and concepts. The other thing I wanted to let you know is I've just finished the reread of Find Your Yellow Tux by Jesse Cole. This book, oh my goodness, Jesse will tell his story next week, and there are a ton of ideas that you can get from this book to help differentiate yourself and your business to drive revenue going forward. So thank you to everybody. And as we say at the end of every episode, let's get going and let's get growing.